welcome to Rough Cut Film Review. That is the first time we've used the theme song, so that's quite exciting. This is a review of Only God Forgives. So this is Ryan Gosling back with Nick Winding Refn in their collaborative follow-up to 2011's excellent revenge B-movie Drive. And this is Drive meets Lost in Translation, meets Hamlet, meets samurai/western revenge flick. So Ryan Gosling is in Thailand. He's part of a criminal family dealing drugs and the like. He's also running a Thai kickboxing gym in Thailand, a bit like Giving Ice to the Eskimos, but there we are. His mum arrives. She's rather racist and generally very nasty, and she looks a lot like Madonna probably looks nowadays, and she says things like "cum dumpster," which is sort of how I imagine Madonna might talk these days as well. There's a fair amount of Oedipus stuff here, which is very overt, very in your face, as Gosling and his Madonna-like mum deal with the fallout of Gosling's older brother's murder there in Thailand. And actually the mother is played by Kirsten Scott Thomas. She does a really good job with what is a somewhat one-dimensional character. Ryan Gosling is as handsome as ever, he's as brooding as ever, although arguably it just isn't as interesting as it was in Drive. The actors, and Gosling in particular, move in very sort of slow motion for most of the film, to the point at which you wonder if they might be reptiles, and that's not necessarily a criticism, they just do. Other people have used it as a criticism. There's a hint of the human tableau about proceedings, and certainly a whiff of the avant-garde, and watching the credits roll you notice that Europeans have been involved in this venture, and I'm not surprised whatsoever. This is not a Hollywood film. Things get off to a rather ponderous start, and the film falls into something of a trap in that the characters are rather nasty and unrelatable for the most part, and we don't really find out much about them other than the fact that they're nasty and unrelatable. The film also has a far more exploitative edge than Drive ever did, which was an exploitation film. The sexual politics of Drives may have been somewhat simplistic, but here we have a real over-sexualization of women. You could probably make the case that there's an over-sexualization of men as well. Bear in mind the Madonna mum is staring at muscular men posing in their pants, but from the mother character to the love interest there is very much a sexualization of women, and that's very difficult to look beyond. It is well directed, it's well shot, it's well played. It's just that Drive was a really special, memorable film, whereas the characters in this seem to be somewhat autistic in their emotions, and in both films the characters are capable of exploding into extreme acts of sudden violence. But to me here it just doesn't work as well, because there's just little in the way of human drama. Alright, there's nasty stuff, but it seems to me to be one set of nasty people against another set of nasty people, and the only reason we're rooting for Ryan Gosling, or I think we should root for Ryan Gosling's character, is the fact that it's just the way the film is set up. He's set up as the hero, even though really he isn't particularly heroic. Another issue for me is the fact that there is little character development. There is something there, and it's all relating to Ryan Gosling's character and his mum. That is the centre of the piece. But actually it reminds me more of a parable from the Old Testament, full of love and sex. Well, not so much love actually, but sex and death and excess of those extremes. Winding Refn has done a good job directing it. It's well crafted. The 80s style soundtrack again works really well. There's a touch of Stanley Kubrick here about proceedings, which is no bad thing whatsoever. If you look closely enough, and boy do you have to look close, because compared to this, Killer Joe was slapstick, but there is humour in there, but you pretty much got to wait for the credits to roll before you realise. I just needed more heart with My Blood and My Offal. Billy Box Office will not like this, and hence there are a number of 1-star reviews online for this where people have hated it. That's unfair and misjudged, but I was really looking forward to this one, and it just isn't there. I want to see it, but the quality just isn't as good as Drive, I'm afraid. Kind regards, Christopher Thomas.